For this episode of Solo RPG, we are going to be looking at Scrying Stone's DM scenario dice from the company's stratagem. Hello gamers, Matthew here from Grey Army Gaming. For this video, we are going to dive into the Scrying Stones, and I'm going to give a quick review of them, and then put them into play in something of a solo role-playing session to see if this might be something that you could use to benefit your own solo role-playing. Now I can mention here that this is not a sponsored video. I purchased these dice with my own money, and I've done that because I could see some potential in them. There could be a lot of good uses for these for solo role-playing. So let's go ahead and dive into the box and see what we get. Alright, so first off we get this really nice bag that says Scrying Stones on it, where we can put our stones when we are done opening them. And also a booklet here that breaks down the different dice. That's very cool. We'll come back to this in a second when we look at all of the dice, each one of them in turn. Let's go ahead and open this up and see what we get inside of here. Oh boy, this is some pretty good packaging here. I'm going to have to just break it open. Bear with me now. Here we go. Okay. So here are the dice themselves, and as you can see, they are oversized dice, extremely chunky, really pretty heavy duty, so this is pretty cool. Let's go ahead now and show you each one of the dice and the different functions that they have before we throw ourselves into some solo role-playing. The first die we see here is a D6 that you can use for character creation or NPC creation. It has several different races here. We have human, elf, dwarf, goblin, unusual race, looks like a picture of something like a dragonborn, and then hidden appearance. So perhaps you meet an NPC where you're not quite sure exactly what kind of race the NPC has. Well, there you go, hidden appearance. The second die is this green D12, and it is something akin to class. This is where you can get a sense of jobs. Either you have an NPC maybe that has a certain job, or your character if you want to roll off a character. Jobs include sellsword, you have wizard, blacksmith, apothecary, hunter, merchant, priest, scholar, barkeep, bard, explorer, and noble. So 12 very different jobs that you can use to add a little bit of flavor to your NPCs or your character. Next off, we have the blue D12, and this provides us with quirks. Quirks for our NPCs, quirks for our characters. And these include repeats himself or herself, is always eating, scarred, a missing limb, a usual language, unlucky, lucky, loud, quiet, hairless, an animal companion, or sickly. So once again, a few different quirks that you can use to add a little bit more flavor to your NPCs and your players. With the next die, we will leave our character creation, NPC creation, move to quest creation. The first D6, this purple one, deals with weather. So there are 5 different options here. We have 2 options for sunny, cloudy, thunderstorm, snowstorm, and heat wave. Continuing with our quest creation, we have another D6, this golden D6, that deals with terrain. And there are 6 different options here. We have grassland, desert, badlands, swamp, forest, and mountain. The next question is, what kind of structure are you going to encounter in your specific quest? And here we have an aqua colored D8 that has 8 different options: Dragon's Lair, Sorcerer's Tower, Undead Crypt, Mountain Fortress, Enchanted Forest, Ancient Ruins, Underground Sewer, and Volcano. And last but not least, we have this maroon colored die that is a D12 and gives us different options for treasure. So we have gold, jewels, potion, armor, shield, melee weapon, ranged weapon, magical implement, amulet, artifact, junk, and then also a trap. In the back of the book here, they provide you a little more information for character names. So you can go ahead and roll off your d6 for your character, and then based on which one of these faces you get, you can go ahead and roll a d6 to see different options here. Now, one little miss on this dice set is that it would have been nice to have little numbers on each one of these faces so that you could go ahead and roll your d6 and then re-roll it again, and then instead of the picture, look at a small number so you don't have to have an additional d6 with you. But we rolled Goblin first. Let's turn the page over here. Goblin here, a d6. There's a 6, so that gives us the name Ki or Kai. So that's a quick way to get some names if you're not good at coming up with names yourself. Names on the fly. We have both male and female in some of these categories, so there's plenty of options. You probably won't run into the same name twice. Otherwise, you can make a slight variation on it and just keep going. The ultimate test for the utility of these dice for your role-playing will come from actually using them in a role-playing session, which we will try to emulate in just a little bit. I can say a few things, however, before we dive into our solo role-playing game session. It seems like these dice are pretty solid, pretty well built. From what I can tell, the paint is going to be pretty decent. It's actually inlaid, so I don't think it's going to chip or come off. These are pretty heavy, pretty chunky, hefty dice. So when you think about this, you get 7 dice for the price you pay is actually a pretty decent value. Now, one thing I already mentioned, however, it would have been nice to have numbers on the corners somehow, so you could actually use these dice also for rolling numbers, so you don't have to have additional dice with you. That's maybe something that we could wish for a future version of this. The pictures are pretty easy to see. Some of them work a little bit better with the darker colors. There's more contrast, for example, with the blue and the gold than there is between this golden and the gold paint. So some of these might be a little more difficult to read while we play, but as we go, I'm sure we will learn more and more what the symbols mean. Seems like there's a little bit of learning that has to happen here if you want to use these on the fly quickly. We have to know that the purple one deals with weather, for example, or that the red one deals with characters. This one, maroon one, deals with treasure. So you'll have to learn those colors and the dice that you need to be using in specific situations, but I think that will be quickly resolved as we use them. In addition, we also have a lot of different symbols here. And it might require a little bit of time to learn the symbols. You don't want to be pulling out the book and checking every time you roll something off. But what's also cool about this is that you don't have to use the book. You can use the symbols to try and inspire you to come up with something else. So, I mean, you have all these different pictures here for quirks for the characters, for example. Here's exclamation points. I mean, we don't have to just say this person is loud. We could say the person is easily surprised or anxious. So I guess we can use the symbols to help us come up with our own imaginative explanations and interpretations. But it might take just a little bit of time to be able to really use these in the best possible way, but I imagine it will go rather quickly. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and try to actually dive into something of a mini solo role-playing game session where we can put these dice to the actual ultimate test. Let's begin this session now by rolling off for our context. Where does this role-playing session begin? So here we go. Have some patience with me as I try to figure out these simple symbols, but I think this is ruins. Ancient ruins. That's a fantastic place to begin our story. So we begin in some ancient ruins. And now we need to have our character. Let's go ahead and roll off this one to start out with. We have a human being, and our human has the name. Let's see here. Do we have a female or male? Let's go 1, 2, 3, male, 4, 5, 6, female. So female and 6, the name is Jocelyn. So Jocelyn, human. Okay. And are there any special characteristics of Jocelyn? Let's start out with what kind of background Jocelyn has. Ooh, looks like a cleric. So something of a holy woman, a priestess of sorts. Okay. Interesting. So Jocelyn is a human cleric, a priestess of sorts who's in the ancient ruins. Does she have any specific characteristics? Yes, she has a scar. Oh, this is interesting. So a scar, where is that scar? Let's say that the scar, in the picture it has a picture of an eye, but let's say that the scar goes across from her mouth across down her neck. So we will say mouth across and down her neck. All right. So there we have our character. What else can we roll here to begin with? Let's go with the specific setting. What kind of setting is this ruins in? So it's in the mountains. So ancient ruins in the mountains. And also, let's go ahead and roll off for the weather just to get us started out. What is the weather like? Ooh, it is storming. Oh, I like this. So the weather, we are in the middle of a huge storm. Okay. So let's go ahead and try this out and just see what we can come up with as we walk through this. Our character Jocelyn pushes her way through some rubble that is blocking an entranceway to an ancient ruins, something like a temple. And when she comes in, the light from the thunderstorm, from the lightning, reflects off the walls on the inside of the temple. And she sees before her a massive room that opens up with pillars across both sides, the right and the left. And in the center of this ruins, she sees what appears to be something like an altar. And there, standing around the altar, is a lone figure. She gently, carefully approaches, and this lone figure she begins to see is it's an unusual character. We'll say in this case it's a dragonborn. It's a dragonborn character who is sitting there carrying out a ritual at the altar. And do we know anything additional about this character? Yes. Okay. So the character is mumbling words that she does not understand. It's almost like an incantation in another language. And she approaches carefully now as the flashes of lightning behind her are pouring through the open doorway that she had broken into. And at this point, the Dragonborn looks up and he stops his incantation. And she raises her hand carefully. And she says, "Peace to you. I mean no harm. I do not come here to cause damage, but I am here to find the truth." And he raises his eyes and lets his eyes fall upon her. "I am likewise searching for the truth. Come. I have not yet discerned the meaning of this." And Jocelyn walks over next to this Dragonborn very carefully. And does the Dragonborn have a name? We have some names in this booklet here. Let's go ahead and roll off a d6 here just to see what we got here. 1, Dross. So the Dragonborn with the name of Dross. He presents himself in his hand and he says to Jocelyn, "My name is Dross, and I've been sent here by my people to find out a way in which we can work against the evil spell that has been cast upon our people." And Jocelyn bows low to him. "My name is Jocelyn, and I have been sent by my people as well for the same purpose." "Good. Then we shall be able to work together, for our paths have come together in this," says Dross to her. He looks down and shows her the altar where there seems to be some sort of strange script that is stretched across the altar that he is trying to decipher and to read. And different incantations he's trying to see if he can to speak the words written on the altar. However, it seems like it's unclear. There are parts of the altar that are damaged or that are missing, that the stone has fallen on it, or it's just simple weathering. He can't quite get the full text of the incantation. So Jocelyn walks forward, and being a cleric, she has the ability to use magic that can heal. And so she begins to set her hands upon the altar and rest them upon the altar. And she begins herself to go into a clerical incantation that she learned as a young priestess in the service of her own temple from her own homeland. And when she does this, interestingly enough, the altar begins to heat up. and to shift and to move. Light begins to come through these letters, and the missing areas of the sentences begin now to fill in, almost like a laser tracing out the letters. And the incantation now, the script on the altar is restored completely. And immediately when this happens now, the weather changes. Let's go ahead and roll this off. Immediately when this happens now, there's a burst of cold. Oh, I like this. There's a burst of cold inside of this temple, as suddenly now the wind begins to blow through all of the cracks and crevices of the temple, carrying with it snowflakes. And Dross immediately stands up and looks over her and says, "Do you feel the cold? It is happening now. It is happening. We must be careful. We must be careful. Where there is cold, there is death." Dross returns back to the altar, looks down now, and begins to read off the restored incantation now. And as he does so, the altar takes a new form of light and begins now to glow this brilliant color. And the altar at this point cracks in the center, falling to the sides, revealing what appears to be something of a stone, you could say sarcophagus, that the top of the altar was resting upon. And they look down in the sarcophagus, and what they immediately see is treasure. Glittering gold, glittering silver, and jewels, precious metals. And Dross stops, and he sighs, because immediately he recognizes the metals as being metals of his own people. And Jocelyn also looks down, and among the treasure she sees rings, craftsmanship, metal rings, golden rings that were only made by her people in that specific style. And both of them, the realization hits them that these are gifts that certain individuals from their town, from their tribes, have come here with to pay off some sort of price in order to curse the village. As they are staring down at this now, the wind, the snowy wind begins to subside, and the moon comes out, glowing now onto the temple. And in the moon light, Jocelyn and Dross see, glowing ever so slightly in the shadow, in the archway across from the temple, a figure walks out of the shadows. And this figure is a dwarf. And the dwarf has this name. We'll make it a female dwarf, Valka. And Valka says, "I see you have made it here. I see that you have discovered the source of the curse. I myself have been wandering in these ruins for the last 3 days, and I have finally come here. I must show you something that I have found in the caverns behind the ruins. This is perhaps the answer to the questions that all of us have about the dying of our peoples. Come with me." And Valka the dwarf turns in the moonlight and steps back through the door that goes down in some stairs, deep down underneath the ruins, down into the heart of the earth. Dross turns and looks at Jocelyn. "Do we dare follow?" And Jocelyn looks back at him. "We have no other choice." And with that, the two of them, the Dragonborn and the human, slowly follow Valka deep down underneath the temple. Okay, well, there we have it. This is pretty cool. I think this is a pretty decent system for a few different things. Obviously, it's going to be very good for setting up a specific session and for giving you characters and NPCs. It seems to be brilliant for that. Locations, I mean, if you ever get stuck in your solo role-playing game sessions, this is perfect. I mean, there's a lot of options here. 12 might not seem like a lot, but if you combine all of these with different things, I mean, like, for example, the quirks of an individual, you can have a lot of different options. And like I said, we're not stuck to the interpretations on the pictures. We can be a little more free-flowing in our interpretations. So this seems to work really well when we want to set up a campaign or a session. If we're stuck somewhere and we need to know, like, well, what comes over the next mountain, for example. Oh, well, here we have something like a swampy bog area. So I guess it's really good for giving us some random prompts when you're doing your own solo role-playing games if you get stuck. What obviously is not as good here is it's missing something of an oracle system. Of course, it's not intended to have an oracle system, so it's not a critique of the dice themselves. But if you want to use these dice, it would be really good then to supplement these dice with something like the Fate Mill, where you can have something like an oracle. And obviously, you're going to be using this with another system with rules and everything for combat and for other things like that. But I think this is really good for giving us just random prompts if we need a little bit of extra help in the moment. Like I said, decently built dice. These are definitely gonna last, and I really like the feel of them, the chunky feel. So I think I'll definitely be using this in my solo role-playing sessions. Probably not as the main engine of the solo role-playing sessions, but maybe just to give me a little bit of an extra kick or a little bit of an extra prompt when I need it. I like the weather die, for example. What happens next? What is the weather next? Or what kind of treasure do we find? What is the structure we come to? Or what kind of background does this NPC have? What kind of quirk might they have? What kind of race are they? What kind of landscape are we coming into? So I guess really good to give you a few options where you don't have to have charts. A lot of people don't like charts because they slow down your solo role-playing game. That's one thing that's brilliant about the Fate Mill is that there's no chart. You just roll the die and you don't have to consult a chart. Same thing with these dice. You don't need to consult a chart. You just roll them out, and if you've learned what the pictures mean or you're able to interpret them in your own way, then you can go ahead and just roll with it and run with the story right away. You don't have to stop. And as we know, those of us who do solo role-playing games, it is the slowing down, the loss of the rhythm and momentum that can really throw your solo role-playing sessions off track. So anything that can help us keep the momentum going and the pace going, it's going to really help your solo role-playing games. So I'm excited to give these a try. I'm going to try them out in some of my own sessions, solo role-playing sessions, and also some of my other larger campaigns where I have other people involved. I think these could be really good tools. So all in all, I'm pretty satisfied with them. I want to try them out a little bit more to get the feel for them, but I'm excited to see what they can offer. There seems like a lot of potential here. Well, there you have it, folks. A quick look at Scrying Stone's DM scenario dice from the company Stratagem. If you like this kind of video and you want to see more like it in the future, more videos in the Solo RPG Toolkit series, then please do give this a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, and I will continue to make more videos of this sort in the future. And moreover, if you have any tips of tools that you use for Solo RPG that you would like me to cover, please do leave a comment below, and I will see if I can round up those tools and give them a try on this channel. And most importantly, thank you for joining us here today at Grey Army Gaming for the future of gaming. Ta-da!